Hello, we're going to be doing biology lesson 3.07 today. You'll notice this is the same sheet as we had earlier in the packet, but today we're talking about the active transport side. So we've been through the passive transport side, and we said that passive transportation occurs naturally, doesn't require energy, but it has to have a difference in concentration because all of these things go when they flow from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. Active goes the opposite. So if you think about it, let's talk about it in terms of water. Water always flows downhill. If you are at an old-timey village, they'll have probably a water wheel, and they would stick a wheel in the stream and let the water flow over it. And as the water flowed down, it would turn the wheel. So an example of passive transport is a water wheel. Well, active transport is more like a water tower. And we'll talk about this. You may not know how these work. So in Grove, there are, I think, two water towers. Some towns have one, some towns have two. And when you take a shower, you live in town, that water comes from ultimately the water tower. And the water tower is really tall because it provides the ability for that water to drop down through a pipe, and that provides the pressure that you have, partially the pressure that you need to get the water out to the homes. Well, guys, how does the water tower fill? Does the water just magically teleport up there? No, we have to pump it up, and that takes energy. We have to plug the pump into something that has electricity. It's probably a really big pump, or maybe more than one pump, but that energy causes it raises the water, and then we can use that water to do what we need it to do. And that's exactly what we have going on with active transport. But instead of plugging something into the wall, our body uses ATP. And we have three, actually, we could have put two categories. So I'm going to kind of do a middle category here. We have two categories. Above this, I'm going to do another box. And here, really small, I'm going to write membrane. You read that, membrane. So the two kinds of active transport we're going to talk about, one involves moving the whole cell membrane, and the other involves something called a sodium-potassium pump, which is an integral protein. So let's just summarize these, and then we'll talk about them individually in lessons 308 and 309. So the sodium-potassium pump, this pump is actually a protein. So we're talking about a protein. And this protein does exactly what I just described with the water tower pump. Our water in town, our water gets pumped from the ground into the water tower. The sodium potassium pump, we could call it the sodium potassium pump protein, pumps sodium out of the cell forming a high concentration. Didn't we say that nature hates high concentrations? Yeah, it does. But what our bodies do, and this is pretty incredible if you think about it, our bodies pump the sodium out of the cell, and then when we need to have instant, we need to get things done, it'll open up gates and all that sodium will come rushing into the cell, just like the water comes rushing out of the water tower. We use that concentrated sodium to run our nerves. Every nerve you have has operates because there's lots of sodium outside the cell. Well, how did it get there? Through the sodium potassium pump protein. By the way, well, we'll save that. I don't want to get into too many details here. So this is still an integral protein. Think of it this way. If we were in our, if we were at a car dealership and we were standing in the showroom, inside of a car dealership. We don't have to worry about getting oxygen and carbon dioxide and gases in and out. Gases kind of go in and out naturally. They can just seep through the wall or looking at the wall. If people want to come in and out, people are a little bit bigger, they need a protein to help them. And so here we have proteins that help bigger things go in and out. But what if we want to bring the new model car into the showroom? If we want to show off the latest Explorer, we actually, the car dealers have walls. They can move the entire wall to get cars in and out. And that's our last category of active transport, where we move the whole cell membrane to take big things in and out. So we have two ways to move the membrane. We have endocytosis and exocytosis. Endocytosis brings things in to the cell, and exocytosis sends very large things out. Endocytosis brings, let me do this. Let me draw my arrows first. There's two kinds of endocytosis. Brings large things into the cell. Well, what will we want to send out? Well, maybe I just made 50 molecules of protein, and I need to send those out to another cell. Well, I can put those all into the membrane will wrap around and send that out. Or maybe I need to bring in several glucose molecules at once, or some liquid. The whole cell membrane can kind of fold in and bring these things in. So if I'm bringing in solids, that's called phagocytosis. And if I'm bringing in liquids, that's called penocytosis. So again, with our car dealership analogy, passive, these are small things that can get through a wall, like oxygen, carbon dioxide, water. Facilitated, anything that requires like going through the door here. And the membrane, these are taking the whole wall down to bring in a whole car. So a lot of the transport depends on the shape. And then remember, our other takeaway here is all of these things are passive. All of these things are active. They take ATP to get it done. Okay, our last video for this chapter is going to be some more looking into this a little bit more. But that takes care of our summary sheet, and this is a great summary sheet for remembering all the different forms of transport that you need to know. And that ends this video. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.